The seventh area, now we're going back to individual. And individuals make up your teams, your products, programs, lines, departments, silos, portfolios, the leadership teams. Every one of those areas is impacted by individuals. The 4R model is the predecessor to the 4D model, which is pretty much core to what we do in Flow. And if you're going to look at transforming an organization, you need to understand the basic setup of the 4R model. And you'll notice that we have in the middle there vision, and that's the individual's vision, by the way, and spirit. And I know that a lot of people may bristle at that. They may not. But people are much more complex than just body and mind, depending on what religious background you come from. There's also dimensions of the soul and spirit. And psychology attempts to address those in various different ways, depending on which of the schools of thought that are followed there. We're not going to go deep into that here. I think we touch on that more in our Flow Certified Professional training. But here's how this works. People tend to distill their values and attitudes from the truth that they believe. Okay? And organizations spend a lot of money investing in training, coaching and mentoring to help their people get to what would be considered right truth for the organization. People don't like changing their minds, but people are willing typically to make a new decision based on new information. And that is key for all transformation efforts, is helping individuals make new decisions based on new information for their truths. And I put air quotes around truth. And it could even be a small t. The philosophers would get angry at me for putting a big T, but hey, I'm just doing large capitals in there anyways. So the first three, right truth, right values and attitudes, and right actions. So from right truth, people distill their values and attitudes, and from that, hopefully they act. And if they have the right truth and the right values and attitudes, then their actions should be right. And these first three, I was already taught this, my goodness, almost 40 years ago when I was at the university. And these first three are the foundations for every religion and every philosophy that is on the planet. Every one of them uses these first three. And so when you're looking at the individual and you're looking at what they're doing, okay, and what the result is, hopefully if you've done everything correctly, you'll get right results. Now, you can use this in reverse for root cause analysis when things go off the rails and people end up out in the weeds wondering what just happened. So if you don't get the right results, look at the actions. And if it wasn't the actions, then most likely maybe they did the right thing and they still got the wrong result. But it might have been based on values and attitudes that weren't correct, or even truth that was not correct. You can work your way around backwards to getting to truth. So if you've worked with somebody for 3 to 6 months, you can start to get a good feel for what it is that they believe, what their values and attitudes are, and you can, within a range, predict how they're going to behave as a team member or as part of the team. And so that's the whole point of the 4R model. It's what we use for the individual. Organizations are made up of people. And as we looked at the team spirit, for example, from a couple slides ago, where the executive went, oh, that's what I want for every one of my teams, is for that kind of feeling to exist in the team. Well, that just doesn't happen by accident. You have to actually preactively and in an anticipatory way figure out how to get everybody moving the right direction and loving it. That's the whole point of flow. And so the journey for the 4R model is in all four boxes because it's people in all four boxes. We've got the individual's vision and spirit, and their truth needs to align with the team and its vision and spirit and truth, which needs to align with the product, program, process areas, and align with their visions and their truth. And ultimately, and this I believe is what every leader and executive in an organization wants, is to be able to take their vision, their truth, and their team spirit and replicate that throughout the organization. And it's that replication that helps deliver the vision, and it's what sets the tone for the entire organization. It's the difference between having a toxic culture or a culture that supports, enables the teams to be able to achieve what it is that the leadership wants them to achieve, to deliver the products that are going to help them and their customers increase revenue, save costs, get rid of, mitigate risk. It all comes back to the individual. And, all of these frameworks work great until you add people. The minute that you add people, you can throw the books out because each and every team is going to behave differently. And that's why you need people whose values and attitudes and their truths and their vision align with each other in all of these areas. So for me, the 4R model is relatively key to being able to deliver the 4D model and making that work properly, as we're going to see later in the flow friction analysis, as well as in the 4D model itself. The 4D model is really the core of what we do. It's sort of the team level version of the 4R model. It's in, and by the way, both the 4R model and the 4D model here, they're both iterative, and you can go back and forth around the circle relatively fast depending on the situation. I'll give an example of that in just a minute. At the team level, you have to have the vision for the team. It needs to be distilled and agreed to. It's at the core of what we do. And the definitions that we have there, one of the key definitions is the VSPT that we do in each of the four boxes. We need to define what the disconnects are and how we're going to mitigate those. We need to define what the vision, mission, goals, and purpose of the team is in order to be able to be successful and deliver the vision of the product, service, or result that we're trying to deliver. Back 10, 15 years ago, the Scrum Guide used to define product as including service and or result. Sometimes what you're working on in a project or with a product isn't always just a physical product that we're going to sell to somebody. It can be something that's more an intangible product like software, or it can be something even more abstract like services that we're providing to our customers. Or we're just primarily going after a result that is either going to help us make more money, save costs, get rid of, mitigate risk, or help us do the right thing. Okay, so the definition areas are extremely important. And in another presentation that I'll be sharing, Flow-Based Scrum, I show how we overlay the 4D model and vision onto Scrum. And in one of the videos that we have out there on why use Flow, in one of the videos with a CIO who's been using Flow for years, he explained how they were able to achieve a 300% increase in the rate at which projects were done. And this was for an organization that was already agile, that was already using agile. So when you overlay the 4D model onto Scrum, it's like turbocharging it. It just makes it work that much better. So definitions, as we used to teach in classic project management, definitions will make or break your project. In Classic, we use the work breakdown structure. In Agile and Scrum, we typically use a product backlog that is prioritized according to value, which is a huge difference in philosophy from just breaking down a work breakdown structure and you just do stuff as it happens. It's a much different line of thought. The next part of the 4D model is distillation, and we talk about distilling agreement. So it's not enough to have the definitions and you just go deliver. The team needs to be in agreement that, yeah, this is what we need to do. And that's the beauty of using Agile, is that when you have your iteration or sprint planning, the team comes together and they choose these items that they've defined, and then they agree that, yes, we're going to deliver these in the next 2 weeks or however many weeks you're using for your sprints or iterations. If you do not distill agreement on what you're doing at that level, and it's the same at every level, it doesn't matter if it's the program level, the portfolio level, the executive level, they all have their definitions. They all have to distill agreement. If you do not distill agreement, you will get politics and tribal warfare. Now, some executives use that Alexandrian methodology of divide and conquer. That doesn't make it right. You just have to be aware if that's what they do. So at the team level, you better be prepared to fight guerrilla warfare, especially if you're working in an organization that is not agile, but they're kicking the tires testing agile, and they want to see, well, how is agile going to work in our organization and in our culture? Well, already right there, you haven't distilled agreement if they're just kicking the tires, okay? But you can still deliver, and you can still deliver at a level that will make those internal stakeholders step back and go, oh, wow, yeah, oh, how'd they do that? Oh, how'd they create a team willing to die for each other? I want that. I want that everywhere. That's what the executives would say, okay? And that's what makes the 4D model so incredibly powerful. And then driving is continuously checking through retrospectives or whatever. It's double checking is what we've got done so far, getting us one step closer to the vision in the middle there. And that's what drive is all about. It doesn't mean that you're micromanaging people. It doesn't mean that you're misusing or abusing your power, and the first reaction out of your mouth when you hear about a situation you don't like is, who do I kick? That's the wrong attitude, okay? Then we have to work with you and take you back through the 4R model and find out what's wrong with your truth and what's wrong with your values and attitudes, because what you just said, with your actions and with what the words that came out of your mouth. Who do I kick? That's wrong. That's just utterly wrong. And so you need to really work against that kind of attitude. And so when we talk about drive, it's all about, are we getting one step closer to the vision? It's a relentless, tenacious, step by step, drag everybody up the hill till we get there. It's not, and how do we help everybody up the mountain together? It's not, how do we beat the sheep until morale improves? That is not what drive is all about. And so with the 4D model, it's iterative, and eventually we deliver the product, service, or result that's either going to make us more money, save us costs, mitigate or get rid of risk, or is doing the right thing.